Are you going to say something?
No, I was just going to...
Yeah, I'll just say a quick few words, because really the film is what I had to say. I get a terrible feeling in my stomach as well with the film, but that's just because of the way I deliver the poetry, not really what's in the film. But anyway, I've been on this for so long, I've turned into an elder without even knowing it. 25 years of my life has just gone past, and in terms of us at Migrant Media, I'm proud of what we've done with those 25 years. Because I can see in this room a lot of people who are interested, concerned, and who are actually doing something about this issue. And I know that in my lifetime we're going to break this back of this evil demon. I know it. I can feel it. I knew when we started making films around police murders. Death in custody is a very English description for what is really a murder, manslaughter. So I don't tend to use it. We know they kill, we know they lie, we know they spy. Okay? So we need to organise in the same way as well. Now, people may interpret that in different ways. It's really up to people how they take that. But in my experience, the best form of defence is attack. And in terms of filmmakers, that's very much what we did with Injustice, which is why Channel 4 and BBC still refuse to show it after 13 years. It's been shown all over the world, but not in Britain. I mean, it's been shown on Channel 4, but on the side of the building, because we took it and we projected it on the side of Channel 4. So it's been shown on Channel 4, but in a different kind of way. And on the same day we showed a film on the side of Channel 4, they made a statement saying that Channel 4 was the brightest, boldest, radical, broadcaster in Britain, so that's probably why they've never funded us to make another film again, but it was worth it. So the reason why we made a film about Sean Rigg after Injustice was, well, we thought if Injustice was shown that it would really break the situation. And I think that chance is still there, still possible if it is ever broadcast. I notice when Channel 4 have a band season, they don't show Injustice. Yeah? They'll show other things. We decided to make a film about Sean because we saw in the Rigg family a family who forensically did the investigation that the state is supposed to do. Yeah? They did the work for the IPCC, they did work for the CPS, they did the work that the state is supposed to do. And there's no reason why they should have to do it, especially since they got zero pay for it, and people at the IPCC are on 60 grand a year to do nothing, to do fuck all, to lie and to scheme and to find excuses for the police. So in terms of the question the film asks is who polices the police? Well, we police the police, the family police the police, and we have to keep doing it in our different ways, whether we're activists, artists, people, workers. We have to keep policing the police and building up the pressure so that eventually the situation will change. Today, for me, it's a typical day. This morning I was with a family of Asal Rodney. You probably heard the news about the unlawful killing verdict that's taken that family 8 years to get, just to get unlawful killing. Yeah? After that, they've got to go forward now with legal cases. This afternoon I was with a family of Mark Duggan, you know Mark Duggan, and Joy Gardner. We're planning I won't say a celebration, you can't celebrate death, but we're celebrating the struggle of Joy Gardner's mother, Myrna Simpson, who for 20 years has been fighting. Now, you know the name of Stephen Lawrence, but Joy Gardner's not a very well-known name. She died the same year as Stephen Lawrence. The only difference with Joy's case is that her killers were in uniform. Yeah, that's the only difference. And that's another debate about why Stephen was chosen and Joy wasn't. So this afternoon we plan to have an event on the 3rd of August, so we'll put it on Twitter and stuff like that. When I started making films, there was no Twitter, there was no mobile phones, yeah? There was no computers. So we have all that connection. But what I would urge you, not you here, because you've actually made the space, but all those people out there who say, I'm going, yeah, and don't turn up, just give them a little reminder, yeah, that they didn't go. And if they're going to come, because now's the time to come out.
If you could please tell us about what you've been doing for what your family has been doing for your brother's case, and also what we can do to join you on the long walk I think you have to celebrate the 7th year of...
I think, so thank you for inviting me. I don't think you should ever underestimate the power of family campaigns battling against the state and battling for truth, because they protect public accountability and government accountability for all of us. And that could be the Hillsborough families, that could be Doreen Lawrence, that could be Baba Ahmed's family, that could be our own. And I'm the brother of someone called Talha Hassan, who some of you in this room will be familiar with and some of you not. Talha was arrested under an extradition request from the United States 7 years ago to this day, and has been detained without trial for 7 years, amongst the longest in British history. His co-defendant, Baba Ahmed, who many of you may have heard of, was actually quite severely beaten up by the police. So he had 73 recorded injuries and bleeding in his own urine. He actually won his civil case against the police and was awarded £60,000 in damages, which is, but in taking the criminal case with the IPCC, all the officers who were acquitted. It was subsequently found in his investigation that the 4 police officers had 63 independent complaints of violent assault from predominantly black and Asian men. And they're still working as ever. There's a number of things families have that even big bodies like Liberty and Amnesty don't have, and political representatives don't have. Liberty has only very recently taken on board my case. Shami Chakrabarti used to go on to public talks like this and not even mention Talha's name. She'd mention Gary McKinnon, who many of you may have heard of. And even groups like Amnesty International. It was Troy Davis, the guy who was killed by the American state, and was possibly innocent, and even if he wasn't, the death penalty is inherently wrong. It was his sister who carried his campaign across the world for many years. Amnesty International and who have staff paid tens of thousands of pounds, or hundreds of thousands of pounds, $1 million, didn't take these cases until very late. It's families who built the grassroots campaigns and the communities of resistance and sympathies. Every year, to mark Talha's detention without trial, we do a vigil, and there will be one next weekend, so please come along. And we also do an event, and this year we're sort of paying tribute to the many family struggles for justice in the UK, many of whom give strength to one another. So, for example, the Hillsborough families who battled for many decades, many of them drew their strength from the Bloody Sunday campaigns when the police killed people in cold blood. And similarly, I've drawn strength from deaths in custody campaigns and other people who've kept going for years and years until they find the truth. This year we have someone called Janet Alder. If there's somebody who can inspire you, it's her. She's battled for over 14 years for her brother Christopher Alder, who was mentioned in the film. He was also a paratrooper, so all this sentimental rubbish about caring about our soldiers that occurred during the Woolwich murder. Her brother was killed in police custody. It was the one that Carla mentioned, actually, so a tribute to him. And she also sends a message of love to all of you. So I haven't sort of come, I'm speaking very badly, and so I don't come, I do talks like this every single week, and it's not to build, there's lots of sorrow in the room and often pity, but that's not what we're looking for. So sort of looking to build a sort of communities of resistance, because for every injustice there is a community of resistance. So please actually help me take a handful of these, and you're from many parts of London, and help me out. Talha is currently in solitary confinement. 50% of suicides in the United States prisons occur in solitary confinement. It's one of those last forms of torture that nobody actually talks about. We had the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture on our side, telling the British government and warning them they didn't want to listen. Dalla, 10 days after Dalla was extradited to the United States, and let's bear in mind he's never actually set foot there, Gary McKinnon, who many of you may have heard of, the Scottish hacker, his extradition was prevented on the grounds of he had Asperger's syndrome and assessed suicide risk. Dalla also had Asperger's syndrome and assessed suicide risk, but was sent away. One of the pivotal factors in this was the Daily Mail, which had a campaign called British Justice for British Citizens, given that they were against the extradition arrangements. Many of them the same newspaper referred to Dalla and Baba Ahmed, the British Muslim extradition cases, as other unwanted guests. So racism is not just about people calling you ugly names and stuff, and many trolls and EDL people and even hate mail we get from America saying, I hope Dalla dies in the United States prison, saying things like that. But it's also about the state, and when the state withdraws its protections and neglects you and doesn't give you the same rights as citizenship as everybody else. Okay, thank you.
If one of you would like to hold on to that, thank you. We've got a few minutes for some questions. While you guys are just thinking of that, I'd just like to add that Ken started off speaking by thanking us for being here. I really don't, from the work that Ken is doing and the stories that you've heard in person from the mouths of the families that are struggling to get justice for their family members that were brutally murdered. I mean, for all of us, who it really puts the police in their jobs, it's our taxes really that are putting them in their jobs, the IPCC, the 60 grand that you mentioned. All of that is coming out of our pockets, so it's not really a case of thanking us for being here or for trying to resist any of this. It's us that have a duty, to police, to correct what is going on, because if it goes unchecked, what kind of world will we be bringing our own children, our own families into? That's something that we have to all hold ourselves to account, because nobody else is going to really do it for us. There is a price for these things, and the price of accountability is to constantly keep struggling. So, as all of you know, we charged you £5 at the door to come in, and every penny from what you've donated goes to the next film that Ken is planning to release, hopefully in September. The post-distribution costs to support the stories of families like Sean and the artists that we have today, Akala, Angel, and Tama. These exceptionally talented people have given their time to us for free, and all of us are banding together to try and support. But I would really encourage all of you to realize that it's a duty on every one of us to really think deep and hard and invest in fixing the systems that are in place, because they affect every single one of us regardless. So if any of you have any questions that you'd like to address to either the family of Marcia or Hamza.
I actually have three. Yeah, they might be quite quick. Yeah, the first one is after the IPCC took on your investigation again. Why does that kind of satisfy you, seeing as they concealed so much the first time they investigated? What makes you think it's going to be better this time?
They've not won us over yet. It's not satisfying yet. We're actually back at square one. This is an investigation that should have happened 5 years ago. The families had to fight and bring out all the evidence in the inquest, do our own documentaries, and campaign through Parliament and marching and demonstrations to force the IPCC. They commissioned the review themselves, and that review said that the original investigation was fundamentally flawed, and that they recommended that they reopen the investigation. That's what the IPCC has done. So it's not the end, it's actually the beginning.
And I'll just have one more. I didn't quite get this from the film. What actually do you think that your brother died from? What actually, as in what injury or what was it?
The jury found that Sean died of partial positional asphyxiation. He was restrained in a prone position for at least 8 minutes. That gave a lack of oxygen, which then caused an ischemia, which is lack of oxygen, lack of blood to the brain. That caused an arrhythmia to his heart, because it was not just at the restraint, also in the van he was put in a compromising position, so that compromised his breathing. Kept in the back of the van for another 11 minutes. You know, we don't know what actually happened in the van, but the stories didn't fit to the injuries. And then what we see happened in the cage. So it was a culmination of things of the lack of duty of care, which caused his heart to stop, because he died. He didn't have a heart attack. I think the police, you know, a lot of people might think, or sometimes it's reported he had a heart attack. He didn't have a heart attack because he had a good heart. There was nothing wrong with his heart, and that was the medical evidence. His heart stopped due to lack of oxygen, which was not forthcoming during that restraint of being held in the prone position, being restrained in handcuffs all the way in the van and in the caged area. That's how Sean died.
What steps do you think can be taken to improve the police system as a whole and reduce police brutality?
Well, they need to stop lying and killing people. Much more I can say.
That's really their job, to be honest with you. It's the government's job. It's not our job. It's not our job to investigate. Just quickly, in terms of the only reason the state ever does something is when they're forced to do it. The only reason they ever do anything like an investigation is because of the publicity, and the publicity happens because families fight. It's a question of containment. They'll contain us as long as they can. And this is why it's important to fight in different ways, to speak, to write, to make images, in any way that you can, because they can't contain everybody. And bear in mind, in London, there are how many of us? 7 million? 6 million? Yeah, depends who's counting and who they're counting. How many officers patrol the whole of London? 30,000 police, and there's 7 million of us. That is a lot of consent. And that's what's at stake, and that's why they'll fight and they'll do anything they can to make the people of London and Britain, I don't think they care much about anybody out of London anyway, that's a different issue, yeah? To make them feel their security and safety. And that's why they'll sacrifice 100 a year, which is what they're doing now. 100 people die every year in police custody, and they have been doing this since the early 60s and even before. Yeah? So this is a systematic program that they've got. Yeah? And the only way to fight a systematic program is to organise systematically as well. Sorry for the speech.
I also think it's, you know, it's also something structural. So it's something. So there's a axis of media power which works with government and gets away with it. So if you watch Ken's earlier films, a lot of the people who were killed in police custody, you know, they were demonised in the media and had descriptions which you didn't agree. In my brother's case, Theresa May conflated his case with Abu Hamza and related this media phrase with Abu Hamza and the others, which, you know, even though they're completely separate cases, to deliberately confuse the public and to deliberately smear the huge family campaigns against them too. And that's why I go back to Hillsborough, and I go back to, you could even go back to the miners' strike, because it's the same axis of media and government and police force all sort of working in tandem with each other. So thanks.
I'd just like to just say quickly as well that when the government starts making police officers and prison officers accountable for their wrongdoing, that's when we're going to see a difference and a change. Because it's a direct message to police that they cannot be doing this. It's immoral, it's evil, it's wicked, it's a loved one, it's somebody, it's a human being. They need to be made accountable. Until then, there will always be unrest in this country.
I also think with sort of the war on terror, that aspect of media power and lack of accountability has got a lot worse. So they can get away with demonisation a lot more easily, and repressive police powers and the erosion of civil liberties get worse. So that's why I see, our struggles all joined together, and how liberation is bound together too.
How do you feel about the police service being privatised now, like SEPA, we've got that prison up in South East London, I think it's got the highest suicide rate in youth detention centres in Britain, for instance, because the police are going forward in the privatisation model now, GRS and SEPA, which won't even have the average accountability to what they currently have. What should we do in regards to that? The power?
The film, I think the political message in the film is pretty strong. This is all about profit, it's capitalism defending its position, and so these, the police are the foot soldiers of capitalism. They were created because the army was going around chopping people's heads off in the 18th century, and there was a rebellion and revolt, and they said, okay, we need somebody who's not really the army, but not really the people. That's the police. In effect, it's a paramilitary organisation that contains us. So how they fund that paramilitary organisation is, they'll do what they need to. Theresa May suddenly got interested in stop and search. Why? Not because she's a humanist or she believes in human rights. It's costing too much. So cut it out, lads. That's what she said. Cut it out. Not, So I think their dollar god is what they'll do. They'll do anything to make dollars, and that's what Circle and these groups are about. So we have to hit them where it hurts.
So thank you very much to all of our guests up here it was very emotional, it's a very serious topic. We're going to have another Q&A towards the end if I can get you to hold on to it, thank you. I myself, Marcia, feel very close to you because I have a brother as well who's very creatively inclined. He's still young yet, but he's also special needs, and when I mentioned to him that I'm going to go to this event, he said, please, if you see the police, tell them not to come after me, which is something that really hit me. And it is for the people that are still alive, basically. So please thank